What if a sacred text, something that billions of people turn to for spiritual guidance, also had a hidden mathematical structure buried inside? Like a kind of cosmic puzzle, where the numbers themselves are whispering secrets about its design. It's this fascinating idea that lives right at the intersection of faith and mathematics. So let's dive in and see what this is all about.
So, that's what we're digging into today. We're exploring this really interesting theory that suggests the Quran isn't just a book of words, but this intricate web of numerical patterns. And that leads to the big question, right? Are these patterns just a massive coincidence, or are they signs of something else entirely?
So, where do we even begin with something like this? Well, to start our investigation, we've got to look for the first clues. And these clues, they come in the form of these simple, recurring numbers that just keep popping up throughout the Quran structure. Think of them as the front door to a much, much deeper mystery. First up, we've got the number 7. Now, 7 is a number that feels special in a lot of cultures, right? But in the Quran, it has this very specific job. The very first chapter, Al-Fatiha, has exactly 7 verses. It's even called the 7 oft-repeated, which is a name that really highlights its repetitive, cyclical role in daily prayer. And then we have the number 9. In this theory, the number 9 represents enumeration, like a divine accounting system. But you have to understand, these individual numbers, they're really just the very beginning of the pattern. Now, you might be thinking, okay, where does this idea of a numerical code even come from? Well, it's not just pulled out of thin air. This verse from the Quran itself, 72:28, is often pointed to as the textual basis for this whole field of study. It basically suggests that a system of counting, of enumeration, is a core part of the grand design. All right, and this is where things start to get really wild. We're moving way beyond just simple recurring numbers now and into a far more complex system, one that some believe ties literally everything in the text together. The theory introduces something called vortex geometry. Now, don't worry, you don't need a math degree for this part. To put it simply, it's a way of looking at numbers not as a straight line, but as this repeating, cyclical pattern, kind of like an energy field that's constantly spinning in a loop. So check this out. Here's how it works. You start with the number 1, and you just keep doubling it. So 1, 2, 4, 8, but here's the trick. When you hit a 2-digit number, you add its digits together to get what's called a digital root. So 16 becomes 1 plus 6, which is 7. Then 32 becomes 3 plus 2, which is 5. If you keep this up, you get a sequence 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 that just repeats over and over forever. But wait a second. Take a look at that sequence again. Do you notice something missing? The numbers 3, 6, and 9 are completely gone from that main repeating cycle. And in vortex geometry, that's no accident. It means they're special. They are seen as the numbers that kind of govern or balance the entire system from behind the scenes. Okay, so let's recap. We've got our key numbers, we've got this strange vortex system. Now let's see how they actually come together to solve a specific, tangible puzzle, a mystery that centers around a single, powerful word from the Quran. It all comes back to this one verse, Quran 1587. It mentions the 7 of the oft-repeated, or mathani. Now, mathani means the repeated ones or pairs, and traditionally everyone agrees it refers to the 7 verses of that first chapter. But this theory suggests it might also be a clue to a numerical pattern. And this leads us to this really kind of cryptic sequence. Proponents of the theory link mathani to the fraction 1 divided by 63, because 63 is 7 times 9, are 2 key numbers. They argue this fraction is like a mathematical key, and when you calculate it, you unlock a hidden repeating pattern that leads to a pretty shocking result. So if you actually punch 1 divided by 63 into a calculator, what do you get? You get a decimal that just keeps on repeating, and the specific block of digits that repeats is 0, 1, 5, 8, 7, 3. For this puzzle, we're going to focus on the number 15,873. That's our main clue. So here's the crucial question. What happens when we take this special number, 15,873, and we multiply it by 7, and then multiply it by 7 times again? Remember, the number 7 is the mathani, the oft-repeated number from that verse. And boom, this is the big aha moment. The result is 777,777, just a perfect cascade of 6 sevens. It's a really stunning result that seems to connect the fraction's repeating pattern directly back to that sacred number 7. But hold on, it gets even weirder. There's another layer.
If we calculate the digital root of the key numbers in this sequence, 15,873, the intermediate step of 111,111, and the final result of 777,777, they all have the exact same digital root, 6. Remember 6? It was one of those 3 special governing numbers from vortex geometry. It's like a hidden signature tying this whole thing together.
So you see all these different clues, right? The numbers 7 and 9, the vortex system, this whole Mathani mystery. Well, the researchers behind this theory, detailed in a work they call the Mathonic Chronicles, they don't think these are just random, isolated puzzles. They propose that all these clues actually connect into a single, really elegant formula.
And this is it. This is the formula they came up with for the Quran structure. It looks simple, but each part represents one of the core concepts we've just been looking at. It suggests the Quran's coherence, which they call Q, is a function of 3 key mathematical principles. So what does all this mean? Let's break it down real quick. 7M is for Mathani, that repetition we saw with the number 7. 9E is for enumeration, or counting, which is linked to the number 9. And P1729 represents pola, or pattern. That's anchored by 1729, which is a famous number in mathematics called the taxicab number. It's famous because it's the smallest number that can be expressed as the sum of 2 cubes in 2 different ways. For these theorists, its unique properties represent the deep, underlying patterns in the text.
Okay, so what? Why does any of this matter? What's the ultimate claim here when you propose a mathematical formula for a sacred text? Well, the final step in their analysis was to test this idea of interconnectedness against other texts.
So what the proponents of this theory did was, they designed an algorithm to map all these numerical links, connections they call edges. According to their research, they found the Quran contains around 5,200 of these edges. And for comparison, they claim that when they ran the same analysis on the Bible, it yielded around 2,000. It's a pretty striking claim they're making about the Quran's unique numerical density.
And that really brings us right back to where we started, to our central question. Is this whole intricate web of 7s and 9s and vortex patterns and repeating decimals, is it all just a series of really remarkable coincidences? Or, as the theory suggests, could it actually be evidence of a deliberate mathematical fingerprint woven into the very fabric of the text? Well, that's a question to ponder.